Hello everybody, this is Skater Keg and welcome to a review of the new Boston Manor album, Glue.
Quit drinking.
This album's only been released today, May 1st. I got this album from pre-order from the official Pure Noise website, through which the album has been released. Pure Noise has spawned some of my favourite artists in the pop-punk genre, from like Pacific to The Story So Far, for example, and even bands that aren't on the scene anymore, like Manor, who broke up, I think it was a couple of years ago now. They've brought a lot of artists into the scene that I really enjoy listening to. In the scene of, pop-punk and the sort of style that Boston Manor had their roots in, and having met the band personally, and even shook Henry, the frontman's hand, I've got to say that this band holds pretty close to my heart. From the minute I heard their first record, Be Nothing, I was just in love with their sound, honestly. But what bands do is evolve. Modern bands need to evolve to stay relevant. To change things up is to stay relevant and to keep their sound fresh. This was by far greatly displayed on their second album, Welcome to the Neighborhood, which came out 2 years after their first. So that was 2016 to 2018, and now with another 2-year gap, we see Glue being released. Stylistically, this is just so much of a vast improvement on what changes that Welcome to the Neighborhood brought around, and I think I have no complaints, to be honest. Little to no complaints for this album. So the stylistic changes of bands is, what brings about polarizing albums that people either love or hate. It divides their fan group, and that's mainly what music is meant to do. In recent years, a lot of stylistic change for bands have brought around some of my personal favourites from those years, such as Foxings, Near My God, which is a lot of change from, the old style math rock, which I started out with, the pretty screamy emo stuff. This was probably my favourite record of 2018, to be honest. We had Bring Me the Horizon's Ammo, a further change from the sound on That's the Spirit, where even that divided quite a lot of fans, but, I still stuck with it. And Turnover, we even saw quite a change from Turnover's style, from Good Nature to Altogether, and it's still good. It's just refreshing sounds. They incorporated jazz on that. But anyway, let's get into this record and see what sort of stylistic changes have been improved on and what stylistic changes have been brought in. So, most notably, to start off with, I think the biggest stylistic change that Boston Manor brings in for this record is the fact that they've incorporated electronic elements into it. A lot of fans were a bit upset by the vocals on the starting track, Everything Is Ordinary, the lead single released from the album. A lot of people thought it was a bit too much of a departure. I just saw it as a great single when it came out. It was good position to put it in at the start of the album. It's really hard hitting, sets it off with a bang. The electric vocals, I think, are quite good, especially with Henry's screaming, which we saw sort of subtly on Welcome to the Neighborhood at parts. It is coming to full fruition on this album, and I've got no complaints there, because this album is thematically quite an angry one. I mean, even Henry stated that himself, that this album is quite angry. It's set quite a different tone to Welcome to the Neighborhood. Welcome to the Neighborhood was more somber. This is more angry, as I've said before. Slightly politically charged in a way, because Henry himself has stated that the album is set, in a completely different world to what Welcome to the Neighborhood was. Politically, with, we've got post-Brexit and all that kind of stuff going on in England. So there's a lot of stuff to write about, and he just does it and executes it perfectly. I think the electronic percussion at the start of the first track sort of seeps over into the second one. I'm quite impressed with that sort of stuff. It's sort of a bit like Nine Inch Nails, sort of electronic drum style thing. I put my stank face on when I heard the riff for Ones and Zeros, the second track, because they have such a nasty use of natural harmonics that make the riff completely filthy, and I just loved it. The chorus is catchy as hell, it's high energy, it's unrelenting throughout. You got Henry screaming vocals right off the back. Especially love the breakdown and bridging. Let's just give it a listen, honestly. God, I love that intro riff so much. It's Brilliant. So the track following on from that, Plasticine Dreams, another single released from this record, one of the later singles to be honest. This is probably my favourite off the whole record entirely. It sounds very 90s, very upbeat, almost like Britpop, but as much as I hate the genre, I'm not like ashamed to admit that has that sort of vibe to it. It talks about the fake side of the music industry, the whole Plasticine Dreams, how everyone's, aspirations are just sort of packaged and sold to us through television, the media. If you make it big and make it famous, ultimately you're just becoming another one of the crowd. And, there's nothing really unique about people's dreams, to be honest. The whole lyrics about cigarettes and beauty queens, it's like a nod to the drugged up state of fame too, that some people, well, a lot of people go into, unfortunately. But yeah, the chorus is just brilliant. You got a great guitar solo, you got everything going on to make this a great song. And I'm not afraid to say that it is my favourite off the record. This is Skater Cake from the future, letting you know that he did a big whoopsie and forgot to mention Terrible Love. This is quite a slowed down track on the album. I think it's quite different from the rest of it. I also sort of started playing along with my guitar on my initial listen, because it's sort of that sort of song where it's a bit predictable in where it's going, but it's nice to sort of build your own little bit around like I did. And yeah, it's just an enjoyable song. Just all part of the album, great. Then we come to one of the most standout tracks on the record, if not the standout track on the record. This is probably the most stylistic change that incorporates, not so much of a full band sound, and more of like an electronic one. As I said, they've got those new elements. It's soaked in ominous atmosphere, and that's just what the song's lyrics are really about, because the song is about toxic masculinity and male suicide in the UK, especially. Henry himself stated in an interview that when he was only 7, he witnessed a man jump off a bridge next to his car. Sorry, jumped off a building. Even another member of the band had to talk a man down off a bridge of the motorway. So they've had close encounters with, that sort of thing, and it leaves that impact that brings around this song. The video includes facts about male suicide, how the whole man attitude has created toxic masculinity, where men are sort of just afraid to show their feelings and accept who they are, so unfortunately take their lives because of it. The video itself is about a guy, going up to a high ledge, about to take his life. So yeah, it's very dark, but at the same time it leaves such a great message, and it's very 9 Inch Nails as well, especially in the chorus. Only One sounds very Alice in Chains, to me at least. I mean, more recent Alice in Chains, post the vocalist change. I just think that through the initial verse riff, the deep guttural bass that sounds quite very metal, the plodding drums, with the slightly open hi-hats, that's just sort of very metal stylistically, but I found it very enjoyable nonetheless. You Me and the Class War hits at track number 7. The Class War song has a very unique guitar intro that sounds sort of almost impossible to recreate. I mean, just listen to the sound of it. The plucking seems so precise and so clear, it's almost like robotic, and I just like that. That sort of vibe carries throughout most of the song and makes it another enjoyable one. So following on from that, at track number 8, we have Playing God. Oddly enough, it sounds like The God That Failed by Metallica, which is funny considering the name. It's in D sharp. I think most of the album is in D sharp or E flat, whatever you want to call it, which gives it this heavier tone. I know that most of Boston Manor stuff in the earlier days was recorded in D sharp, especially on like Saudade, their initial debut EP. But yeah, the bass on this one's brilliant. Throughout the verse, there's a lot of spaced out atmosphere. It sort of gives a feeling aside from the rest of the abrasive choruses in the song. The chorus is pretty hard hitting on this one. And I like the contrast in the song as well. Brand New Kids, the starting to it is my only complaint really with the album, because it sounds so similar to Plasticine Dreams, but it quickly redeems itself. Henry displaying great vocal range, we got these beautiful head highs, and quickly spat verse sections as well that are almost sort of rap-like in a way. That leads into the next track, Rat King, which was another single. It's extremely hooky. I feel like the structure of the lyrics bends around the song quite a lot. There's a big diversity in style. There's at least 3 different parts in the song where the lyrics sort of change up in their pattern. and I like it a lot because it just makes it such a diverse and changing song. So leading into the album's final few songs, we've got Stuck in the Mud. It's an unexpected slice of style change as well for the band, utilising piano, more ballad-like pop drums, and, you know, Henry's lovely vocals telling a personal story of his innermost regrets. Yeah, this is another one of the stylistic changes, similar to On a High Ledge, where the band sort of takes a break and it becomes much more intimate feeling and broken down and vulnerable, and I just like it a lot. It's another one of the very emotional songs as well. Liquid is the penultimate track. It features one of the members from Trophy Eyes. It's got probably the best build-up in the intro, where you expect it to just explode into the main riff. It sort of takes a moment of silence, then builds it even more by adding this awesome guitar and bass riff. I think this song vaguely sounds like In the End by Linkin Park. I don't know if that's only me. So the final track, Monolith, has a section near the end that sounds vaguely like something off of Suicide Season by Bring Me the Horizon, and then it changes up completely. We've got this quiet building piano and the vocals that creep in to close the album gently. I think Boston Manor always has a really beautiful way of ending albums that sort of leave you feeling the whole emotion that the album was meant to convey. So they do this expertly every time, and they do this expertly here, so this is a brilliant end to the album, and quite a different one at that. But it's really well appreciated, and yeah, it just closes off one of the best albums so far this year, and probably, arguably, the best album they've produced, because there is such diversity here. It's such a takeaway from their roots, but also building on where they came from Welcome to the Neighborhood. It's just great. Great record. Not really any complaints at all. Spawned some of the best singles that I've heard from them. Stylistically, ever changing, ever evolving, ever building on little changes. And it's just great. Let's plug this in at an 8 out of 10. Nice electronic incorporation. Lyrically, it's brilliant. Sonically, it's really, you know, motivating. One of those ones that want to make you get up and shout and sing along. And just filled with a lot of energy. The only complaints, as I said before, is a slight repetition in some of the songs, but ultimately it's a dark record, it's an angry record, something different to what Boston Manor has ever produced before, and I'm absolutely in love with it. This was well worth pre-ordering, this was well worth the hype, and I love it. So 8 out of 10, Boston Manor Glue. I will see you in the next video. See ya.